Okay, well, this is Lou Martin, and my little project on YouTube is called Awakened Spirits Network, where I've had the pleasure to interview many teachers of consciousness and artists and other exciting folks. And I have one of my very favorites here this morning, and this has literally been years in the making. So I'm cleaned, I'm pressed, I've read the book, I'm on my best behavior, I'm excited. So here is the lovely Henrietta Goth Ellis, who is the author of The Sacred Marriage, an amazing book which we're going to talk about. And I literally just finished reading it yesterday. Good morning, Henrietta.
Good morning, Lou.
Yes,
yeah,
there it is. Thank you very much. Brilliant, brilliant. A beautiful cover. You designed that yourself, I guess.
Thank you. Yes, Chris and I did together.
Oh, okay, great, great. Well, the ball is in your court, my friend. Where would you like to start? Let me just say, thank you for writing the book. As I said a moment ago, I've read a lot of spiritual books, as you might imagine, and this is unique. This is quite unique. Between your amazing journeys, this is where you caught my attention. A few years ago, how is this young woman literally traveling all over the world to these power spots and doing this amazing energy work? She's got to be deeply tuned in. And now I know you are deeply tuned in. And you just had a visit to Avebury yesterday, which we might talk about. But the book is amazing. And then we also have your work with your husband, Chris, your sacred marriage. Beautiful guy. One of the most romantic stories I've ever read in my life, I have to tell you. And you are the queen of romance, my friends. You are just with the rings and the vows and going to Roslyn Chapel and Tintagel and on and on and on. We'll get into all of that. But yeah, it's an amazing book. And I want to say, so there are 9 musical transmissions, I think. 10. Okay. 10. I still have one to go that are part of the links of the Kindle version, which is how I read it. Or you can, get it in a physical copy and just do it online that way. But they are absolutely amazing. And this is the work that Henrietta and Chris were guided to do together, where it seems Chris is picking the musical pieces and you are being the energetic guide and channel to bring spirit through the music. And as I said before we got on here, I read it for about 2 hours and did, I think, 4 of the journeys in the last 2 days. And so by the time I was on number 9, I was just, floating above the earth. So thank you. Take it away. Take it away. What would you like to chat about?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you. It's been, I think, 2 years since we had a chat.
Yeah.
And that the last time was in Egypt. So it was just at the beginning stages of this whole journey.
Right.
And yeah, it was lockdown and I was in Egypt with Chris in the Luxor house. And yeah, it's all written in the book, but that was the last time. So I just wanted to touch on that. It's been a couple of years since a lot's happened, but yeah, it's been a few years since we've had a chat like this and a book.
Yes. You were in Egypt for 6 months, was it?
It was 6 months actually. 6 months.
Okay. Yeah. And you were doing your Lawrence of Arabia, riding across the desert on horseback and, blending in with the locals and going to the Crystal Cave. And you and Chris did your first vows there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me thank you again, for sharing all of this with us. I can't wait for the film. Maybe we should discuss that at some point here.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep that in the back of my mind for a moment. But Henrietta, it really is a cinematic spiritual journey of all these incredibly powerful places. Can you rattle off some of the power spots you've been to in the last few years?
Yeah, so there was Uluru, Egypt, the pyramids, all the temples along the Nile in Egypt, Stonehenge, Avebury, Glastonbury, Roslyn Chapel, of course. Yes, Roslyn Chapel. No, funnily enough,
No.
I
Oh,
did
look,
go
right,
to Oriente Tambo I went to, but not
right,
Machu Picchu. It wasn't guided to
right.
Machu Picchu.
Okay, I remember that. That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, the whole idea or intention behind the book and sharing all of this was because many people can't access these sacred sites and can't travel, especially with the lockdowns, and the restrictions. People weren't able to go to them. And that's where I believe all the new consciousness was streaming into. And I felt like there needed to be an access point for people from home that could do it and receive the codes through reading a book.
Right, right. So let's brilliant. Let's can you share with people how you've grown in your own life, which is again so inspiring. Your journey is just so incredible. And again, you were at Avebury yesterday, and you got blown away by the energies there. So you're a tremendously sensitive, energetic channel, and a deeply connected, intuitive. I mean, I don't want to reduce, but you have very powerful spiritual gifts that are meant to awaken and enlighten humanity. Through bringing through these energies and messages from source.
Yes, yes. And I guess I just want to share with you my journey briefly. The book is really about how I transitioned from an old life to a new one. And many of us
Perfect.
are in that space now. So we have to let go of everything we thought we knew, and we need to take the leap of faith into the unknown, which is where, the true life exists. It's in that space of 0 point, now moment, present consciousness. And for me, it's very natural. I enjoy it thoroughly. But at the same time, I did have to let go of everything I thought I knew to be true. So it was a rewiring of, well, I was taught this was true, but it's not actually true. It doesn't feel true. And step out of those constructs.
Right.
So the book is really about that, and about how, I ended my first marriage unwillingly, actually, but it was guided by spirit that this was my next step and I needed to step forward. And I'm so grateful that I did, even though it's been quite a whirlwind tour and journey of the planet, but it's definitely been what I feel like I've come here to do. So I definitely had to step out of my comfort zone and my programming to really step into my true self. And from there, all the gifts started to come forth, and it was rapid fire transformation on many, many levels. But the main piece for me was, it was about love, and the idea of, well, I know what true love feels like. In my heart, I knew what it was, but I couldn't see it or feel it or experience outside of myself. And so part of this journey was through connecting with the earth, the sacred sites, the cosmos, the stars, how these pieces guided me to find that reflection and find someone that was resonating on the same frequency. And we actually could do it together.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you had a volcano in Bali give you permission to flee your home with everything left behind and start over. That was pretty dramatic.
Yep, that was very dramatic, actually.
Yeah, yeah. But again, you are. I mean, you have so many great quotes in here. I've got the book open, but the one, you have one quote on where you say "Truth conquers all." I thought that was brilliant, and you had another quote about just as you're saying here, this path of empowerment, of awakening, of ascension, of enlightenment, as you just said so beautifully, is surrendering everything else. Everything else is can be a hindrance or a distraction or an excuse. And your heart, your soul, your spirit, the I am presence, which is the core of who we are. No problem. It's creating your reality. If we'll just cooperate, it will work miracles. And you've demonstrated that over and over again in the book and in your life, which is really courageous and really extraordinary and so inspiring.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So where was the shift? You know, you talked a little bit about having some understanding of your past lives, and that you perhaps hadn't incarnated for 1,000 years or something along those lines, which makes sense to me because, you know, honestly, I mean, you know this. So the first time I saw you, I was like, whoa, who is this? There's something big going on here, you know. And as you've expressed in the book and in your telling here, you really are a channel for the goddess, and you really are holding the vibration of love as the healing force of life. You know, that, you know, if we will surrender to love, as we learn to surrender to love, whenever we surrender to love, boom, you know, the shift really happens. So anything you want to say about your own awareness of how you came into this life?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to touch on a hypnotherapy session, a quantum hypnotherapy session I had recently with Ellis and Co, which I
Right.
mentioned to you. So it
Yeah.
happened this month. I've been wanting to have a session with her for about 7 years, and
Right.
she's, you know, 6 months to a year in advance. She does really deep work, a lot about what's happening on the earth, the energies coming in, the event, past lives, future lives. There's a lot with her work, and
Yeah.
I managed to get a booking with her in December, which it was, again, a miracle. I was not expecting it. It just popped up and there it was. And so that was, it was quite a big revelation. And
Okay.
I did revisit another past life that I needed
Okay.
to see. And this one was actually in the Himalayas. So
Right.
I was in the Himalayas and meditating in a cave
Wow.
and receiving a lot of information. Like, my life's work was basically receiving information and channeling it through the body, to ultimately share with people. But at the time, the people weren't really ready to hear and feel what I wanted to share. So there was some interesting pieces in that. I did have a few people that were, I guess, followers that were with me, but there was a lot of resistance from the general collective of what I was sharing, and bringing through. So that needed to be seen and felt, that particular lifetime, for me to, I believe, really step forward with my work now in 2024 and the book, and really get behind it, because there has been, you know, a fear of judgment and death for sharing certain truths. And that's been
Right.
probably my main thread in terms of this book writing process and actually putting it out into the world is, it's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. It's
Sure.
very personal, and it's life-changing. As you said, this book, it can cause miracles. It has a lot in it. Whatever you're open and willing to receive, you will, through this book and through the transmissions. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
kind
believe
of,
that. I believe that.
yeah. And so it is a bit vulnerable because I know the power of it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the ripples that it is already having. So I'm sort of, there's a bit of a tentative stepping forward slowly, just like, okay, how is everyone going with it? How are they receiving it? And it's, I guess, recently, because of all the feedback I've been getting, like incredible feedback, it's really helped with my confidence in my
Good.
work, and
Good.
moving forward, going, you know, this is really powerful and it is going to help a lot of people. So that's helping me move forward as well.
Beautiful, huh? Beautiful. Yeah, I've read the reviews and they're glowing as they should be, and I will gladly write one now that I've finished it as well.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sure. Oh, sure. Yeah, you know, I mean, my awakening for a lot of this stuff was through Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code,
Oh,
you
yes.
know, which was an absolute revelation for me. Like, Jesus and Mary Magdalene married, and Mary, the keeper of his wisdom and the leader of his church. And, oh, okay, that
Yeah.
explains a lot. And had a family, like, people do, like being human. Yeah, that explains a lot. That was where I first heard of Rosslyn Chapel, and I just read yesterday the scene in there where you have your sacred vows at Rosslyn before the legal marriage in London, and that the power was off, but the lights were flickering in Rosslyn Chapel while the two of you were having your vows going off. And I'm going, yep, that's good. That's very good.
That was amazing. That was such a beautiful moment, because it was really confirmation that, the spiritual realm and the chapel itself was communicating with us and confirming. And it was, a bit of a celebration, even though there was only 3 of us in the chapel at the time. It was really magical.
Yes. But, absolutely. I mean, again, a great scene in the film coming soon, not a dry eye in the house, I promise you, including mine. But what I want to say, hon, is that, you were at Uluru 8 times, I think, maybe 9 now. Okay. Which is quite a long ways from where you were living. I'm guessing. Yeah. So, I mean, you've had the courage, the faith, the clarity, and you've learned, and perhaps this is what I'm working on right now, because I'm moving, and wasn't my intention in all this. So, and I need to say also, Henrietta, I mean, of course, you're my dear friend, and you've been so kind and so supportive to me through all my ups and downs. God bless you and thank you. I want people to know what you mean to me, how dear you are. But also, 3 years ago, I was in a house fire where, everything was, that chapter ended 2 days before Christmas. You were really, you showed up for me 100%, and you got me over the rough spot, and thank you for that. And boom, here we are 3 years later. I'm leaving this place, and here's Henrietta again with her book this time. And I'm going, it's like there's a higher power at work here, Lou. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I tend to come into people's lives when they're about to take a leap of faith or go through quite a big shift or transition. That's generally when I show up. It's not an easy time. It can be really scary. But I remember the prerequisite for us having this chat was you have to finish the book.
You
did it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Oh, yes. Well, and as we were saying beforehand, it was a pleasure, believe me. And so I'm hearing you talk about being at Avebury in the book, and where are you yesterday but in Avebury, so that was totally surreal,
Yes. And this trip has been an interesting one. Again, it wasn't planned that we were going to the UK. It all just lined up. And then, once you get enough energy behind you going like, this is where you're going, everything comes in to support. So here we are flying over to England. We have, quite a significant mission, especially on Chris's side, meeting his birth mother after 46 years.
Yes. Would you tell us about that? Because that is an incredible story as well. And Chris, is kind of the quiet guy behind the throne, as far as I can tell, but he does obviously a great job, and he's your guardian and your angel and your soulmate. So what was Chris's experience with meeting his mother and all that?
Yeah, so it actually started in 2020 when we landed in England after coming from Egypt. And, I've been asking the question to him, like, over time, are you interested? Is it something that, you want to do, connect with your birth mother? And he actually began the process in 2020, and all of the files had been closed due to COVID. So it's been a 2-year, I guess, process.
Journey. Yes.
And just a piece at a time, not really expecting anything. And so it ended up that we needed to hire a private investigator because his mum couldn't be found. We didn't know whether she was actually with us alive or not. But we got the private investigator, and she managed to find and locate her. And then letters were exchanged. And she was waiting her whole life for him to make contact. Yeah, it was huge. He was taken away from her. She never got to see him as a baby, and she's been waiting.
Wow.
She's always known that he would come back and find her,
Wow.
and she's carried that her whole life. He has 4
Right.
siblings that have all
Wow.
known about it as well and have been waiting.
Were
So,
any of them there when they met?
sorry?
When he met his mom? Were any of the siblings there when he met his mom? Or?
Not the first meeting, that came second because it was just all a bit too much. We thought we'd just
Sure.
kind of break it into smaller bite-sized pieces because it was a lot to take.
Sure. Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was really healing actually, especially for her to reconnect with her child of 46 years of not knowing anything. That would have been really
Wow.
difficult and traumatic.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And that was Christmas. That was Christmas weekend.
That was solstice. That was
okay.
Solstice. So the meeting happened on the solstice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll do. That'll work. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really big. On the way, we had an Uber, and on the way, this is when all of the rainbow clouds started appearing in the sky.
Right. Right.
We're driving through Birmingham, and Chris is like, "Look out the window." And I looked out the window, and I honestly could not believe my eyes. I was just, I've tried to film a little bit. It didn't really come up so well on camera, but a lot of people got photos.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people got amazing photos, and it was just like, oh my gosh, what are the chances that these rainbow clouds have just lit up the whole sky and we're en route to meet Chris's mother? It was just the timing and the solstice. And I definitely received information and intel on how powerful the solstice would be through this hypno session with Ellis and Co.
Okay.
It was a really big one. I mean, I've always been fascinated with the event and the transition that the earth is making. We've got lots of information, and we're like, when is it going to happen, and the timing, and we're preparing. And so what I was receiving from this was, I know everything about the event. There's nothing more to know. It's a knowing. And
Okay.
I think we all have this inner knowing. But the information that I received that I didn't know was that it's not one single boom event. It is a series of pulses, of energetic transmissions, I guess.
Right.
And certain beings are going to be the initial receptors through the body of this energy, and then ground it, amplify it, and direct it out. So that we're in the preparation stages now. Solstice was the first, I heard.
Okay.
And there are going to be more. And as we're coming into 2024, which, as Elizabeth Peru, my very first mentor, said, we're heading into solar maximum. So that means the sun is going to be highly active. We're already seeing huge solar flares we haven't seen in 6 years. I think there was a 2.28 just before we flew out of Australia. So we do need to really prepare, and our bodies have their natural intelligence, and we are preparing. But I believe that our connection to the earth and the stars, and most importantly ourselves, are going to take us through this time unscathed and thriving. And it's the disconnection that is going to be difficult for many people. So hence my book, hence my work, Sacred Leadership. It really is time to go back to the ancient ways, connecting to the land, really knowing ourselves, and I guess really using our abilities. We have these incredible intuitive faculties and energetic senses that for many of us, they were shut down, to survive.